Hey, Krishna. Let's start discussion on the introduction to the audit trail. So, in the financial institutions or the bank or the insurance company, they have maintained the audit trail. So, it is and the very important concept or the topic in the IT system perspective or the functional perspective. So, what is audit trail? How you implement the audit trail? If you are a business analyst or if you are the any role in the IT projects or the tester or the developer, so you should know what is the audit trail and how its process will get work and what are the key components or the key elements in the audit trail and what is the audit trail. So I'll give you the detail description of audit trail in detail way. What is audit trail, why it is important, and the key components or the key content in audit trail, and the best practices for audit trail, so that we will discuss. So let's start this video with the a new learning. So let's discuss on the initially what is and the audit trail and why the audit trail is exist. So in audit trail we can also know as the audit log. So it is and the chronological record of event that provide a documentary evidence of a sequence of activity that have affected the specific operation or procedure or the event. So it is an the chronological event. If suppose if you have the bank's account in your account in a banks, and if you go to change some details or some the address change or the name change or your the key documents like the Aadhaar number or the PAN number that not get changed, but update the PAN to change the information on this document. So all these records, your old record and new record, will be tracked by the audit trail system. So they have their own existing audit trail system in the order system or the transaction monitoring system or in the core banking system. Whenever the change get in this important field which is suggested by the bank, so then the record will store. So let's discuss on who, what, when, where record gets stored. So who, the user or entity that perform the action. So that information will also get stored. So like maker, checker, who is the maker for that changes, who are the checker for that changes, what are the fields and who's going to change, and what are the system that uses like the mobile banking, internet banking, or the core banking system or the banking applications, banking software that will use in that the perform. So that is, and then the what the action or the event occurs like a file creation, data modification, log item. So all these logs will get stored. So what did he or she do it, he will create that a file or what kind of any data will make the modification or the login attempt. So one time login, two time login, why not successfully login. So that all get trail and to save in the system. So when the date and time of the event, when he will do what timestamp is also there. When he will do, so what time, what date, and what second, and the where the location or the system where the event took place. I already told you internet banking, mobile banking, or the internal core banking systems, or order system or the transaction monitoring system. So different kinds of system bank use. So all these systems location or there the function will include. So let's go on the next slide. So why our audit trail is an important? So why need an audit trail? So basically to track the activities which is done in the system. So that's an audit trail. An audit trail are the fundamental component of effective data management and the security analysis. So these are audit trail is important for the security and the forensic compliance, accountability, problem diagnosis, and the fraud prevention. So that helps us to prevent from the frauds. So in this security and the forensic, it helps detect and investigate the suspicious activity and unauthorized access or the system misuse. If someone unauthorized want to use your system and do the unauthenticate or illegal way work on your system, so that can identify and the system misuse. So compliance, many regulations like HIPAA, GDPR, and the C1 or like auxiliary are required the organization to maintain detailed audit trail, and that will help. There are the compliance requirement, so you should have the audit trail. And then the accountability, they hold the individual accountable for their action within the system, so we can track if someone log in the system, so what actions or the what talks he perform on that system, so that gets stored. So if there is any fraudulent activity, or if he or she maybe misuse the system, so we have the track and check in detail. So that's why the audit trail is there. And the problem diagnosis, they can be used to troubleshoot issue, identify the root cause of error, and pinpoint in the system or why the system gets failure and why the actions he or she will take. And the fraud prevention, so by monitoring activities, and organization can identify the patterns, they may indicate the fraudulent behavior of the employee or the customer, or the all the stakeholder which are involved in that the system. So to prevent the fraudulent activity and track the fraudulent activity, to monitor the entire system with the audit trail system. So let's move on the next slide. That is a key information contained in a audit trail. So what are the information contained in the audit trail? So how the audit trail tables or the data will look like, how the UIX will look like. So that robust audit trail capture the detailed information to provide a clear picture of the event, what done by the criminal or the employee, or the fraudulent person. So date and the timestamp should be there, where the event will occur, at what time that event will occur, so that should be there. And the user identifier, the account has per user ID that initiate the action. So who is the maker, who is the checker, so what the things he will do, or it is at the company customer, or it is at the internal team, so that their ID, customer ID or the user ID will get identified who is the user. And the event, so what are the actions or what are the tasks he or she perform on in that system. So the specific action like login, create, update, delete of customer, update of customer, or the transaction done. So all these things is there. And the objective or the data affected, the specific record, file or data item that was the acted upon. So that's objective should be there, what he should do. And before and after the values, once it is in the process analysis, we can also say, and the modification, the old and new state of the data. So if suppose someone go and change the communication address or to change the name, so we need to track what is the previous name, or what is the old name, or what is the old address, and what is the new name, and what is the new address. So that should be tracked there. And the sources of IP addresses, the network address from which the action is originated, or from which that action is done by the user or the event occurs. So let's move on the best practice for the implementation of audit trail. So how can you implement the audit trail in your system? So what are the techniques or thing you should use? So basically, let me give you what is the audit trail. So you need to track all the system, the activities done in the system. So table level and the column level you should track. So the implementing an effective audit trail require the careful planning and the management, and the business objective or the business goal or the in scope functionality and outcome functionality, why we are doing the audit trail and what thing we want to track. So that thing we should have, and accordingly we will implement the best practice of the implementation of audit trail. So enabling by default to ensure all critical system and application have audited and enable, and we track the each and every transaction in the important system, how that will done. And the store and securely audit logs and audit trail should be stored in a read only and tamper proof located to prevent the modification and deletion of these audit trail events, and to track this and store securely in the system. And then the regular review, so periodically review and analyze the audit logs to identify the unusual pattern and the security incidents in the system, and to monitor the audit trail activities and identify the hidden pattern and the fraudulent activities, and do in the regular way. In that. And the retention policy, define a clear policy for how long audit data should be written based on the legal and the business requirement. So in a audit data warehouse, how much the duration of data should be stored and how many times we can track and verify this data. So retention of data should be there, and after 7 year or the 10 year we need to delete that data, so that level of should be there. And the automated altering, so to set up the automated alters for high risk events such as the multiple failed login, autom and unauthorized access to sensitivity data, so sensitive data. So and the setup, and these are done in the unauthorized access, there is not illegal access, and track this thing in the audit drill. So that's the introduction to audit drill. So let's discuss and conclusion on these slides. In a summary, the audit trail is a critical tool for security, compliance, and accountability, for providing and transparent and immutable record of activities. It helps organizations to prevent their data to meet the regulatory requirements and maintain the operational integrity. So itself says that the audit trail is a critical tool for the security and compliance and accountability. So it is defined by the security. So if there is a fraudulent activity done that, so we track, and compliance will force us to track your audit trail, and that will help us to monitor the transactions or the monitor your system how it will perform, and is there anyone doing the fraudulent tasks, and providing the transparent and immutable records of activities done by or the actions taken by the users. And the key takeaway from that slides, an audit trail is a chronological log from an audit trail is an chronological log for the events, how much the event will happen, and it is an essential for security compliance and the forensic department to understand this thing. And it is an the most securely stored and regularly reviewed system, so that will get the output. So guys, thank you so much for watching these videos, and if you have any open question related to the audit trail, and if you want to understand in the perspective of business analyst, quality analyst, or in the developer perspective, so I'll therefore help you on the topics of audit trail. If you like my efforts and if you like my video, please do like and subscribe my channel, so that will motivate me to create more such videos for you. And if you have any open topics you need to understand, so please suggest me, I'll create a video on that also. So once again guys, thanks for the watching this video.